why don't we start exactly the question that you just asked? Because I think that's such a good segue into what I have for you.
Yeah. I want to ask you, Chris, do you enjoy what you're doing after 20 years since you founded V13?
Yeah, I do. In fact, the short answer is I had like a full-time day job career while also running the magazine as a hobby and as a passion. And then about 3, 4 years ago, I left that world and started to work for myself around V13, which is when we start to launch additional companies. And I became an entrepreneur and I started to learn about all the hardships that come with being an entrepreneur, how hard it is to, make money and make sure you're taking care of your team and paying other people before you pay yourself. But I have never been more satisfied and rewarded in my life. And it's funny because I started to read a book that ties into something that I'm going to ask you called Ikigai, which is the Japanese idea or philosophy that when you find your purpose, you are the happiest, most fulfilled, and then can live the longest.
I
So I
couldn't
found my
agree more.
Ikigai and I feel amazing.
I'm very, very happy for you. I'm glad to hear that because I can imagine running a magazine. There's a lot of challenges. I just wanted to make sure. Yeah, I want to know that you're still having fun.
I am. Thank you. And it sounds like you are having a lot of fun too, considering after all of your life, you discovered music very late and then had success. Uh, when I first got like the pitch and I'm like, who is this young musician, this artist? Kindness, love, gratitude, hope, passion, authenticity. Those were the words that were coming up, not just in the press release, but also like on your YouTube channel in the introductory video. And I said, this sounds like me. I need to meet this person. She sounds so genuine. So why are those things the words you use to describe yourself? Why is that so important to you?
Um, to me, since I found music late in life, I think I already, like you, found your purpose. I found my purpose, and the
Mhm.
purpose is in line with music. So
Yeah,
I was just being more of a human instead of letting music to change it into something else. So I was just being me. So everything I do with music, with the podcast and mental health effort is all just what I truly am interested in. And with music, I can write songs with a message that if it touches people's heart, it will motivate them to make some changes and benefit from it. And the podcast is the same thing. I talk about my struggles and trying to figure out why we do the things we do. How can we improve it? And the final goal is always to improve our connections with others. Every time talking to interview viewers like you and talking to my audiences, talking to other musicians, I grab every chance to make another connection. So that's all I'm interested in. Then that's what I do with everything I do.
that's amazing. So, I mean, I know your backstory. I'm assuming that this idea, this love for a healthy mind and a happy outlook on life came long before the music because of how you grew up. You were abandoned at age 5. Tell me a little bit about your childhood and when was it that you start to have that mindset about I need to be positive?
Absolutely. Um, when I was 5 in our city, there was a new boarding school. It was supposed to be a good thing, a opportunity for families to give their kids a better chance to succeed in the world. But now I realize that definition of success never had much to do with finding happiness. in life. But at that time, my parents thought it was what was good for me, so they sent me there and they left to do business. For a 5-year-old, it felt like abandonment. And my
Mm.
dad, during this time, really left the family and never came back. So that affected the way I build my relationships. Like even just with friends, I couldn't handle one-on-one good friend relationships. Every time we get too close, it reminds me of the love I used to have from my dad. Then it scares me because I started thinking about what if I lose this friend one day. So when the friendship goes very well, I would sabotage it. So I would never feel being left. So that was throughout my life until after I got married. I caught myself started doing that to my family because I really love them.
Wow.
Then, yeah, I was scared of the thought of one day I might lose them to anything, but nothing was happening. It was all in my head. And my husband finally, I really appreciate him doing that, pointed out that, do you realize that's what you're doing? Are you really trying to give away something so beautiful? That day, I just finally woke up from that subconscious way of thinking. Then I decided I have to work on myself. I can't
That
let this pattern of behavior kept repeating itself in my life.
yeah. So it was a, fear of abandonment that was leading you to make these choices. I'm so surprised. I mean, I guess I'm not that surprised because it happens so often. It happened to me as well, but I'm so surprised that it lasted as long as it did, and that you survived through life until marriage,
Yeah.
and that's when you first start to actually tackle the problem.
Yes, because for most of the time, I either just avoid getting close to people or just kept sabotaging my romantic relationship. So it never get to a point that I had something so precious in my life that the love for them finally was bigger than the fear I had for losing them. Even though they never tried to leave me, it was just a fear that I was like, it's like a snowball that I was rolling. It got bigger and bigger, even though in reality, nothing was really happening.
Yeah. I have a couple incredible therapists, different women, different ages, that give me different advice, and one of them, Barb, basically just said, like, "There is light and dark, there is love, and there's fear, and fear is simply the lack of love. It is the lack of light, and when you, focus on how simple that is, it's very easy to change how we respond in situations. As soon as I catch myself saying, like, I'm afraid to what they're going to say, or I think that this might go negative, whatever, I immediately know that I need to change that. And it's funny how it was the love of the partner that forced you to look at that fear and to change your mindset.
Absolutely. When I was consumed by that fear, I didn't have time to stop and think about and look at what's really happening. I was just letting it lead me down that path. It's that conversation he had with me finally gave me that moment and stepped back from where I was and look at this from a different perspective. Then I realized, oh, it's not scary at all. They're not trying to leave me ever. It's me who's causing all the problems.
So let me try to get the timeline accurate because I know
Mm-hmm.
that you also are incredibly a cancer survivor. I think it was around 28. So what came first? Was it
Yeah.
the husband having that big moment with you, or the cancer, or did that happen afterwards?
So we were talking about we were living you live in Vancouver right now. I was living in Vancouver. So it was in Vancouver when I was working, when I was still single, that's when I was diagnosed with terminal cancer and had that surgery that saved my life in Vancouver General Hospital. And about 3 years later, I was introduced to my husband. And then forward to 3 years later, that's when my self-sabotaging behavior almost broke up this family.
I really appreciate you being open and sharing these things. I think it's so important for us as people and as a society to be vulnerable because if we're not, we're never going to heal and we're never going to get stronger. It sounds like you and I are in a similar path in the sense that a lot of this change, a lot of the mindset happened only in the last few years. Is that accurate?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. Um, my self-healing and um, learning journey is around the same time as I discovered music. And music has been a huge part of it because through music, I could properly process a lot of those traumas and triggers. So it felt like I didn't have to carry all of them on my back with me everywhere I go. I could temporarily put them down, even though it's still mine, but I'm not carrying it with me all the time.
It's funny how much, music can do and can heal. It's really fascinating, and I wanna get into your music and talk about that and the podcast and some of the other stuff going on. Your IG, it reads, "Meaningful music for a difficult world," sorry. Uh, let's discuss a difficult world. What is difficult in your mind or in your view of the world? What do you mean?
Other than all the outside obvious challenges that every one of us is seeing and feel pretty powerless to do much about, there's a lot of challenge because how imperfect we are. We came from imperfect childhood that left a lot of wounds that cause us to have certain behaviors that we're stuck in certain patterns that we can't get out. And I personally struggle with a lot of them. And every time I write those down, like you said, being vulnerable and show other people how I felt, so many people resonate with them, then I feel those are connections being made. Those are moments that my music help other people realize they're not alone. There are some people who understand them and is
Yeah.
showing them the hope that there might be a solution. If she can deal with it, we can too. We're all in this together. So I think in that sense, that's what I meant.
Yeah,
Meaningful
I love that.
music for the difficult world.
Yeah, I really like that. It made me think because 'cause we're both going through a lot of, I guess, learning and changing right now. There's the mind-body connection, the world within, and then there's the human to universe connection, the world without. Uh, and I think that one has to learn both of them to then have a better chance to connect with other people. And so there's so much learning and growing that has to happen internally and externally before you can do human to human stuff really well.
Yeah.
Um, talk to me about your upbringing because I know that you have multiple languages, you've traveled around, you've lived in different areas. How many languages do you speak? And do you think that any of that led you to be able to start to have these conversations with yourself more easily? Do you think it's harder if you don't have the same worldview to talk to yourself?
I love that question a lot because as a family, we do travel a lot and we meet all kinds of people And the more we see the world and meet more people in different colors, different languages, the more you realize that no matter what you look like, what language you speak, we love the same things and we struggle with the same things. It couldn't be more clear that we are meant to be one family. We can love each other.
Yeah.
And I also see people who didn't, we also met people who didn't go out a lot. And we can see the difference in how we look at the world. So I'm, yeah, grateful that I have the opportunity to go out and see the world, to understand this. And I also, because of knowing that, I also want my music to help bridge the, yeah, gap between different cultures and bring people together to show them, yeah, what I
Yeah.
believe.
I'm of the same opinion. I think that most of us have more in common than we do, not in common, and instead of focusing on our differences, we should focus on our similarities. What languages do you speak?
I speak Mandarin Chinese and English, but I do sing in Spanish. So all the Spanish I know are in the lyrics. Yeah, when we were in Spanish speaking countries, my husband sometimes asked me to speak some Spanish, but I said it would sound very corny because they're all from the songs. It's like, let the music fill you. Let's dance.
Mm, me. That's really funny. And you've traveled a lot too. So you said you've obviously were born in China, lived there, you've lived in Canada, you're now in Hawaii. Have you lived
Yeah.
anywhere else?
Yes, we also lived in Washington State and California. Yeah, and we like to travel anywhere, just anywhere with a different culture. We're just very excited to see the differences.
Yeah, me too. I mean, traveling is a privilege and not everyone can do it, but I think that the lesson is um, to keep learning, to keep wanting to try new things, see new things, and even if it's just online, through YouTube, through books, whatever, to consume different cultures and information because that leads to growth. I don't know why, but when I was reading your bio, I started to think about the movie Braveheart. Have you ever seen that movie?
No,
No,
tell
it's
me
with Mel.
about it.
It's not, like, too important, and I don't really remember the movie that well, but it's with Mel Gibson, and he's playing this, character, William Wallace, who is, um, trying to unite the people and fight the good fight, and because he's an outsider, he's seen as, less than and not intelligent and just a warrior, and there's a scene at the beginning of the movie where I believe he meets, like, the queen or someone involved with the royal family, and they're trying to negotiate, and she thinks he's just some peasant, and then he just starts to speak French and, like, Latin and all these different languages, and he's basically saying, like, "Whatever you want, I can speak in whatever language, it doesn't matter." Uh, the point that I am taking from that is it's just so important to learn and consume because as soon as you do, you see things differently and people see you differently.
You're absolutely right. Yeah, when you were talking about, I was thinking this world, like again, defines success in certain ways, but when we meet people, it's not those things that attract us. It's
Yeah,
like the guy you talk about in the movie. It's what he's seen in the world, how he wants to treat people, the kindness. Those make
yeah,
you want to know that person. You want to be close to them. You want to hear more. And
yeah.
isn't that more successful?
I agree. I mean, I spoke with someone a couple days ago, a writer, and oh man, Stephen Blush is his name. I have an episode with him coming out, but he was meeting with a band, and they basically said like, the definition of success for us is being happy and waking up every day doing the thing that you love, which is like that Ikigai that I mentioned, right? And
Yeah.
money's great. You can do fun stuff, you can travel, etc. But like if you're not fulfilled within yourself, then what's the point? And I think that's we're gonna talk about this more later. That's what it comes down to, right? Is like you probably love yourself now more than you ever have, which is why you're starting to be happy and change things, and that's why you wanna help other people.
Absolutely. All those things we chase all have the same end goal. We want to be connected to people. We,
Yeah.
if there's no other people in this world, do we still want money? Do we still want fame? Do we still need good education? Because without other people, those things don't matter. What we want those things to help us to achieve is the final connection with more people. It's through them. They're just the way, but they're never the end goal.
Yeah. Uh, I was, really surprised when I finished your YouTube, trailer. I mean, I've seen other stuff. I don't know why the YouTube trailer came up, and I said, "I'll watch it because it's short." I was blown away by the Surgeon General from 2 years ago saying, like, that, half of adults in the US are lonely, and then there was the power of the smile, that it's an involuntary reaction for other people.
Yeah.
I have some thoughts on the loneliness, but talk to me a bit about the smile. Like, how did you even find that out?
So it started with a real life story. I read about this young guy's story. He's about 20 years old in Japan, and he died alone in his own apartment, and nobody found out until weeks later. After reading that story, it's just like there was this big pressure on my chest. I couldn't stop thinking about it until I wrote the song, Could You Lend Me a Smile? From his
Yeah.
perspective, him going on the street. Every time he goes out, he could have easily met hundreds, thousands of people in such a busy city like in Tokyo. If someone give him a meaningful contact saying, I acknowledge you are another fellow human family member, and or give him a smile just to acknowledge your existence means something, he wouldn't have give up or wouldn't have give up so early. So the song is called Could You Lend Me a Smile? I'm asking those people passing by, can you just let me borrow your smile for a second? You don't even have to give it to me. Just let me borrow it for a second. I will have the strength to hold on to hope for a little longer.
And obviously that's what led to the Smile Project, which we can talk about as well. Isn't it funny how, like, a story that might seem like nothing to most of the world, or even that person who passed away, but, like, that story can have such a huge impact on someone else's entire life direction?
Absolutely. That if it touched me and I did something about it, maybe we could avoid some more deaths. Even just one is huge. If we can save one person from death, from loneliness, that would just make all the effort worth it.
Yeah, I totally agree. Going back to the, Surgeon General saying half of Americans are lonely,
Yep.
um, I think that you didn't say Americans, you said half of adults, and so immediately in my head, I said, "Okay, is this Americans? Is it North Americans? Is it the world over?" I'm 45, and I can genuinely say that, I've spent a lifetime being happy. I thought that I was happy, I thought that I loved myself, and it wasn't until a lot of things befell me a couple years ago, and I started to do a lot more therapy that I realized, oh man, like you are not as happy and as in love with yourself as you thought you were. There's so much work to do. I wonder how much of the loneliness now has to do with modern society and our upbringing, like the phones and the TV and the sporting events and all the stuff that's external, pulling us away from just focusing on the simplicity of being happy within.
Absolutely. I don't know the exact number, but what I know is let's go back maybe 50 years and think about what families did back then. At the end of the day, they would sit down at a big table, everybody together. They just talk about their things in the day, good or bad. It doesn't matter. They don't have to have any um, mental health professionals in the family. You just talk to anybody in the family, then somebody would have said something, or even just listen to you. Your problem would seem so much smaller, and it wouldn't keep building up in our head and
Yeah.
get worse and worse. There were so much more bigger groups, like kids were not on the phone, so they would be doing sports. They would have maybe study groups together. Every time we're together doing something as a group, that's healing. I think there were so many other structures if we think about what we used to do back then, and the link with the number of people having mental health problem back then. It wasn't a problem before, but now there's so much talking about it because it is a problem. And you're absolutely right, I think. The modern way of living has
Yeah.
everything to do with it.
So there's a disconnection from, how we used to do things before, which was more organic and more community, family focused. And in your journey, it sounds like you've realized that for you at least, music and the smile are some of the easiest ways to help people reconnect.
Absolutely. And smile is almost a small example of many things that we can do that's as simple as a smile. We can say thank you to our family member who's been doing some work for us all the time, even just washing dishes. We got used to it and we stopped saying thank you, but they were doing it every day. Maybe we can just stop and say, I really appreciate you helping. And even a simple meal, and even hug ourselves. All the little things like smile really make the big changes. And we try everything I suggest people to do on my podcast. Every episode, I suggest this one simple action. But before I suggested everything, we try as a family. We find out if it works. And that's very helpful too. Doing
Mhm.
something as a family, something meaningful. I
Yeah,
love
that
it.
that's such a fantastic idea, and I was actually gonna ask about that. Um, Before I do, so you obviously have a husband, you have a child. Do you have multiple kids, 1 kid? What's the
One kid. She's
Alright,
11 years old right
11,
now.
amazing.
Yeah.
Um, I have 2 kids, my partner has 2 kids, we've got a busy house with a lot of kids, and one of the things that my kids are still younger, um, one of the things I came to realize over the last few years was not only do I wanna be the best example possible for them and for how they see the world, but if I'm not comfortable doing something in front of them, then I shouldn't be comfortable doing it, in other areas, so to speak.
Wow.
I also need to show them how I interact with the world. So if I'm not being grateful or thanking, people or using my please and the thank yous and my manners, which I talk to them about all the time, how can I expect them to do that same thing?
Wow.
Uh, so how do you do it with your family? You kind of answered my question, but like, how do you trial things?
First, I just love what you're doing, what you realize you should do, because there's no better way to teach our kids to do something by just doing it. Sometimes my daughter surprises me by acting just like me. Looking at her, I was like, whew, I really need to be careful with, even though it's a good thing, but it reminds me with everything, I should be careful what I do because she's like a mirror. Because recently I reestablished my relationship with my dad, but we lost connection, not lost contact for over 30 years. So there are there were questions he's afraid of asking me. So he tried to talk a lot to fill the air. So there's no gap for me to ask him a question or him asking me questions. So I gave him homework. I said, every time we talk, you need to ask me one question. I'm sure you're curious about me, but you're afraid of asking question. I promise I will not be offended anyway. You can ask me a question every time. But my daughter, in the meantime, also talks to him sometimes. They're friends. And I caught my daughter sitting there saying, why are you talking so much? You need to ask me a question. She, she was doing exactly the same thing.
That's so funny.
Yeah, so I not only we spend a lot of time together teaching her other things. I'm also her homeschool teacher. She's been homeschooled from first grade, and I love it because not just teaching her knowledge is spending time with her, finding out how she learns and listen to her talking about things happening in her life. Yeah, I think that's our time is the most precious gift we can give to our kids. And I'm very happy that I can do that for her.
I agree with you. Time is everything. I'm also happy for you that you managed to reestablish a connection with your father. It sounds like he's almost like living in that fear now too, where I can't believe that I did this or that this happened. I didn't have her in my life. I don't want to say the wrong thing and then have her disappear again. So that's maybe why he
Absolutely.
won't ask
I
the questions.
I tried to think of everything that every kind of fear he might have in his mind, and I made a decision telling myself whatever comes out of his mouth, I
Mhm,
will always try to be encouraging and understanding because I also don't want to scare him away
mhm.
because now we just reconnected. He's already over 70 years old. What I remembered him was when he was in his prime age, 20 something. Yeah, or 30. So I also value the time we have left, and I want to build a new relationship with him. I decided to leave everything that happened in the past, just let them stay in the past, and we start something new, like
That's
friends.
good. Yeah. Uh, the past is the past, gotta leave it there. Learn from it, remember it, but don't dwell
Absolutely.
on it and live in it. What's the expression? If you're living in the past, you're living in regret. If you're living in the future, you're living in anxiety. You gotta figure out how to live in the present moment.
Absolutely. As
So,
much as we can. We all have little moments in the day that we might be in the past a little, in the future a little, but we can try to stay in the present as much as we can.
yeah. What I've come to believe over the last couple years is really that the more we live, the more we learn, the more we grow, the more tools we have. They're just there to constantly get us out of the past and out of the future as fast as possible. So that like we're always falling off the horse, right? We're always falling off the path every day. But the more tools you have, the easier it is to be like, oh, I've fallen off. Get back on. Get back on. Uh,
Yeah.
that's life.
Yeah. And every time we fall off, we don't be harsh with ourselves. If we already expect that we are going to fall off, then when we fall off, we're just, oh, that just happened again. I don't have to criticize myself. I'll just
Mhm.
cheer her up and help her back up. That's
Yeah.
more helpful.
You know what else was a huge thing for me? And it sounds like you had the same thing with your father. For me, it was the finally understanding or realizing that forgiveness has nothing to do with the other person.
Oh
It
my
has to do with
goodness.
me. And when it
Absolutely.
finally clicked, I was like, "Oh my god,
Yeah,
now I can forgive everyone."
absolutely. A lot of times when we hold a grudge towards somebody, they don't even know about it. So
Mm,
it definitely has nothing to do with them, but it affects us so hugely. So if we can let it go, first, we helped ourselves be happy. Also, when we can tell the other person that they are also they also benefit from it.
yeah, that I think that is a very important thing to, what we're talking about, mental health, loving oneself, being able to let go. or give people grace, forgive ourselves, forgive others. That's such a huge part of that healing. Um, do you think that having a child, like becoming a mother, helped with your healing journey, or was it just something that happened and then you healed afterwards?
Good, very, very good question because it almost had everything to do with it. What happened back then, like 2, 3 years into my marriage, when I almost broke up the family, had a lot to do with me becoming a mother because all the triggers that I didn't realize existed when I was only dealing with adults in my life all became very obvious when I became a mother because she was me. She is the little me that's walking around in my life, reminding me all the things I forgot, but my body still remembered. She would do a lot of things that I used to do, but I was reacted to very harshly as a child. All those things left triggers in me. Then when she's acting those things, she's there were sayings like somebody push your buttons, but nobody ever really push your buttons. It is us carrying all those buttons and we let them being pushed. They're just living their life, doing their own thing. Those buttons are just signs for us to recognize, okay, that I have to deal with within and that I have to deal with. When I properly deal with those things, then they would not be buttons anymore in my life.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was becoming a mom that kind of exposed me to a lot of triggers that also led to that extreme of me trying to sabotage everything. It has everything to do it, but also it's through being a mom, I learned how to treat her in of those situations lovingly. And by properly handling those situations, I also reparented myself and were able to heal from them.
I appreciate the answer, and I love the metaphor of the buttons. I've never thought of that before. So my career has been in and around entertainment and technology, and because I did so much tech stuff, it was always like troubleshooting and the 5 whys, like identifying the root cause of an issue. And then with the journey that I've been on over the last few years, you start to identify triggers and then you just start to remove them. Because if your phone is bothering you, I don't know why that's the example, but your phone's bothering you, you can either learn the phone or just get a new phone and then it won't bother you anymore. But internally, as a human being, just remove the buttons, minimize, like if you are find yourself saying you're pushing my buttons, then look inward and figure out what the button is and then remove it and then no one will push it.
Absolutely, because other people see that same person all the time too, and they don't feel their buttons are being pushed. So it's me. Yeah, I have the buttons. Yeah, they're not pushing it. It's just I have to deal with it. But it is not easy. I have to
Of
say it
course.
is not easy. I think there are people who don't realize there are buttons. They have buttons. And there are people who realize they have buttons, but they just couldn't remove them. So they just decided to live with them. Then there are people like us who both see them and realize how much work it is, but determined to do everything within our power to remove them so we don't react and hurt people we love around us.
I agree. And I think the funny thing is that once you start doing the work, it gets easier. Like life will always be challenging and the problems will always be there, but it gets easier to identify and address. I mean, I catch myself in the moment now. I would have never done that. It would have taken me weeks. And then I'd say, why did I blow up at that person? Now I can catch it in the moment and stop it before it happens. But then as we rise in our consciousness and in our life, the challenges get bigger, the obstacles get bigger. So it doesn't go away, but it gets easier. Just keep going.
It
Speaking
does. Yeah.
Speak
Yeah. Sorry, go
no,
ahead.
no, 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 you go.
I agree. I do feel in general it gets easier and easier, but there are certain setbacks from time to time that's in my head. It's not really, I, I know I was still improving, but there are times that I still accidentally didn't control myself enough and reacted. Then emotionally, it felt like a setback. But don't give up. Don't give up. I guarantee you, if you are trying, you are still climbing. It just
Yeah.
feels like a setback. Just as long as you don't give up, you will get back on it. And it happens. It happens. Just don't be harsh on ourselves, then we can keep going.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, it could be a relationship. You could have a fight with your partner, and then you will hopefully have more of the tools to realize, okay, I was responding from emotion. I was responding from something. Maybe I was triggered. Why was I triggered? Let's move into logic and have a conversation about, you know, A, the issue, and B, why we responded that way so that we don't have to do that again.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
I uh I love talking about, the journey and mindset, mental health. Tell me a little bit about when you had that cancer scare and now you're working, I believe, with Teen Cancer America. You're doing some really cool stuff.
Yeah.
It's not like, unfortunately, it's a common story now with people getting cancer and surviving, hopefully. But what's the mindset like? Because I've never been through that. But, like,
Yeah.
hearing something like it's terminal, but then having the tenacity to say no and then come out on the other end.
For me, I think the experience was a little different from a lot of people. I understand that because I also saw how my family reacted to it. It was extremely different from how I reacted to the diagnosis. At first, when I went in those MRI rooms, I always see that one doctor was there monitoring it. Then that doctor left the room, then brought back more doctors. It happened a few times, and every time after a group discussion, they always decided it is terminal cancer and we're almost sure that you won't live very long. A month to 3 months. We went through that for over a dozen times at least. And every time my family heard the news, they were in disbelief and they cry uncontrollably. But I never reacted that way. To me, I think the reason was because I have a belief in God at that time already. I knew even if I lost my life because of something, He will give me justice in somehow, and I have hope in that because He's a happy God. He wants me to have a good life in one way or another. But they didn't have the perspective. So every time when they heard the news, it was just devastating. I felt their pain. But in the meantime, because I have the belief, I didn't feel scared. Instead, at that time, I had to quit my job at the time, so I had plenty time. I even pick up a ukulele and learn how to play ukulele. I was just having a good time every day. And I think that really helped me because if I let the fear overwhelm me, that would actually cause a decline in my health. It could have made situation worse, but it didn't happen. I think it's a huge protection. Also, then I think you mentioned saying no to the hospital because they didn't want to provide the treatment I wanted. Because I knew from my research in Western countries, there are better treatments for the same situation, but they were not willing to um, do it for me in China. So I respectfully said no to it, but also got kicked out of the hospital because they
Mm,
said there were people begging us to treat them in your situation, you could have walked around and accidentally fall and break your tumor. Then you can talk to doctors at that moment about how you want to be treated. It's whatever is going to save your life, but you're telling us you don't want to accept the surgery right now. So they were very mad, but I believed I was going to find a doctor who's willing to do it with me. And eventually in Vancouver General Hospital, yeah, there was an amazing team that they just did a beautiful job. At first, they said it was gonna take maybe about 5 hours, but they did such a good job stopping the bleeding. They didn't even need to use the self-salvage machine to recycle the blood. They didn't need any of that. I only lost 300 cc blood in the whole 60% liver resection surgery. That's just unheard of. That's how amazing
Wow.
they did that job and saved my life. And yeah, my stubborn decision got paid off. I found the
Good for you.
doctors. Yeah.
Good for you. So it sounds like, not only is that a fantastic story, and I'm obviously so happy that it turned out the way it did, but it sounded like you really focused on positivity. That you said at the beginning of this call, it could always be worse. That's something that my mom says, that I now say, and my kids say. Um, it comes down to how you look at something, and if you see a situation as negative or positive, it's going to change the perspective entirely, and it'll probably impact the outcome.
Absolutely. And that is the concept behind all the small actions I encourage people to do. In essence, smiling at a stranger is to change the way we look at them. During COVID, we were asked to stay 6 feet away from each other. Don't hug, don't touch. That natural connection that we used to have with strangers, especially in Canada, people are so friendly. People say hi to each other. They smile at each other. They hold the door open for each other. They're quick to say sorry when they did something. And during COVID, we lost a lot of it. I encourage people to start smiling at each other. It's just, in a way, it's tricking your mind into looking at each other differently. Not differently in a new way, just back to the old way, how we used to look at each other. And other little actions too. It's a baby step, but behind it, it can trick our body into a different way of thinking, looking at things differently. And that actually changes our whole world. Because it's the same world, but if we go outside and decide, I'm gonna try to be kind to others, I'm gonna look at everyone as if they're my friends, then your world has already changed. Your whole day is better.
Yeah, I agree. It's also a hard thing to accept, that sometimes where we are is because of what has happened. The hero's journey, for example. You went through horrible things, but you probably needed to have a top 15 mental health podcast. Like otherwise you wouldn't have.
Yeah. Those I'm grateful with how much people like the podcast and how much they resonate with it. But all those rankings is just showing how much it reached people. And that was never our goal. We were doing a music podcast, never thought about it being a huge hit in mental health. And I'm just happy with how much it helped people. Yeah, and I totally agree. Without what happened in the past, no matter how horrible those things were, if we learn something from it, it's totally worth it. If I have a chance to go back to it and have to go through all of it again, I would not hesitate. Just let it be. Because I learned so much from it.
I agree. I have a belief that everything bad is just something good that you haven't realized yet, and eventually there's a lesson that you'll pull from it, whether it's immediate or down the road. You will say, oh man, you know what? If that hadn't happened, this wouldn't happen. So I guess it's a good thing.
Absolutely.
Why don't we end, or wrap up with your music, because I find it so fascinating that you really didn't do anything musically or play, and then all of a sudden you discovered it. I think it was 34 you began your career, and now it's just, like, blown up, and you're getting all kinds of nominations. Not that the awards are the end goal, but, that you're obviously being, seen for your quality and your contribution to music. So, like, how does music come out of you out of nowhere? Is it because of the journey again, or, like, what was it?
It definitely has a lot to do with the journey. Like I told you earlier, they happened around the same time. So music became a huge part of it, of helping me to process a lot of the very abstract concept into something that my body can feel and other people can hear. So every time I feel a strong emotion with my own story or hearing some other people's story, that strong emotion would come out as a melody. And after it comes out, it just feels like that pressure's removed. And every time I sing those songs and in that way to tell that story, it felt like more and more pressure was taken down, taken away. And I understand what I was trying to process better. So that's how music originally came out. But before I even try to write any music, it was actually my husband who challenged me into trying because I wouldn't try to write anything or do anything creative because I was by trade accountant and my family, they were all my whole life I was taught everything you do, you learn how to do it. If you want to become a lawyer, you have to go to the university to learn. So when my husband heard me playing the ukulele, he said, I can hear that you have the ability to write your own music and play by ear. That just freaked me out. I said, no, I can't do anything I haven't learned yet. So we argued about it for 6 months. Finally, one day, I was tired of it. I said, let me show you. He plays piano. He's self-taught how to play piano. So we have piano at home. So I said, let me sit down at your piano and show you I really can't do this. So we can stop this conversation. But I want to give it a very honest try. I don't want to fake a try and say, see, I can't do it. I want to be honest with it. So I did try hard. And before I realized, I already wrote 3 songs that day. And that showed me how the emotion flows out. And I was addicted to that feeling. And I was using it on every emotion that was trapped in my head for so long. I could finally let it out in a beautiful way.
That's so lovely. I the dad in me is wondering how much your husband thought it was hilarious that he was right.
Well, he was sure of that. That's a unique talent that he can, if he knows a person well enough, he's done it before. He can tell what their real talent is. And he has all the passion to encourage those people to do something about their talent. You don't have to do it for a living, but do something about it. Like you said, that's their purpose. If they do what they feel they're purposed to do, you feel the satisfaction that nothing else you do can compare. So that's his passion. And he was very happy to use it on me. And
Yeah.
he's been encouraging me all along.
It's so important to have good support wherever it comes from. It might be, a bartender, it might be a husband, it might be family, it might be a therapist. Support is so important because it is really hard to only have conversations with yourself. Uh,
Absolutely.
it's possible, but it's really hard. And when you have outside perspective and other people that are supporting you or giving you a bit of confidence, like that guy to start this whole conversation, right, in Tokyo, it would have been awesome if he had just one person that was able to say something to him. You definitely smile a lot, so the music and the podcast is very fitting. I'm so grateful for your time because, I see these conversations not as just something for, other people to hopefully learn from, but for me to learn from. I take these with me for the rest of my life, and then I get to go back and recall them when I'm having my moments. Do me a favor and, wrap us up. Give us the final word. What is something you'd like to say to the audience?
First, I have something to say to you, Chris. It's I appreciate this conversation, I think, as much as you do, because it's just feels so good to talk to somebody who also is on this journey with me, who's also been at the lowest point but climbing out of it.
Yeah.
Is yeah, it's very encouraging. And it's always very good to see somebody who's willing to work on themselves for not just the benefit for themselves, but also for everyone you love. Because I believe since I started working on myself, it's much easier for my family, even though they love me the same. But it's not easy to live with somebody with so many triggers because you never know what they're going to do the next moment. I don't want to be that person in their life.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. And
Thank you.
it's just wonderful meeting you and talking to you. And a word to wrap this up, I think, is I like that what we talk about. If we can change the way we look at each other, it would change our whole world. Even though the wars are still out there, the inflation, everything is still there, we can still feel good and feel happy if we just change how we look at our world.